right, hello and welcome to the Holy Hour podcast. It's the bi-weekly All Cure podcast, and I'm Gavin, and we have another wonderful episode ready for you guys right now, and I'm joined by our old friend, Jon. How's it going, man?
Hey guys, it's going good. It's good to be back.
Yeah, welcome back to the show. Listeners out there, you might remember Jon from when was the last time? We've been on a few times now, but it's been a little while.
It was 2020, wasn't it? It was the Cure on Trial episode.
We put them on trial
back in the spring of 2020, when the pandemic just started.
Totally, yeah. We talked to each other right before the pandemic too, so we had too close to backwoods. I guess like early February, we did the Valentine's Day playlist there, before when everything was all peaceful and nice, and then like a month later, the world came crashing down, and we put the Cure on trial. You know, that's what you do during a pandemic, right?
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, one of the things we put them on trial for was not releasing the new album.
Yeah, exactly. We actually, so I guess they're still, working out their sentencing for that, So, yeah, here we are a few years later, and like I said, great to have you back on the show, and thanks for throwing this idea out even a little while back. Like a lot of things here on the Holy Hour, it takes a little while to get everything stewing and get all the stars to align, and so here we are. We got a fun topic. Jon was like, how about we do what ifs, in a sense of and I don't know how directly it was associated with the idea of the Marvel ones, but that's how it started to make sense to me, even though I'm not a huge, I watch the Marvel movies and stuff, read the comics as a kid, but I'm not, I'm definitely missing some holes there in the billion stories and shows they throw out and all, but is that kind of what it stemmed from for you, the idea? Or is it...
Yeah, sort of. I did I did watch that Marvel What If show, but on YouTube there's like this YouTube channel, Alternative Histories, which basically stuff like what if Germany won World War II, what if Nixon was never president, all these random things, and it's just like, I'd like to put like a kind of put something like like the Cure or something like that into that kind of perspective. Especially since, as you say, you go back on the history and you find out like a lot of stuff like original plans or original concepts for albums and stuff. And I think it's come up on your podcast quite a few times, hasn't it? Where you're like, what would that have been like if they went down that route? So I thought it'd be a bit of fun to kind of make up some bullshit.
So we're gonna get super scientific here, but like I said, though, it is fun. It is, in their history and timeline have been going long enough where there are plenty of these that kind of dropped out of the sky, or it's like, oh yeah, of course everyone's kind of pondered that, especially because Robert loves to take the complete 180 on the shift of what was going to happen next with the Cure and stuff. So, keep everybody on their toes kind of perspective. And you can't help but wonder a lot of times, well, what if he had done this? Or what if that happened? Or what if it was out of his control for once or something like that, So, it's pretty funny. So we're going to definitely be dealing in some false realities with you guys today. Do you tend to enjoy movies like that anyway? I'm kind of not a false reality guy in the movies and stuff when I...
I quite like it, but now you've put me on the spot. I can't think of like a movie that really kind of does that. I know there's that show, isn't there? Is it called like Man in the High Castle or something? I've never seen it. But to be honest, a lot of like sci-fi movies that I loved from like the 80s and stuff have now kind of technically gone into that genre because they're now set in the past, like Blade Runner. It's set in like 2019, isn't it? So it's technically now like a kind of alternative history. Like, what if technology changed in that direction?
It's a good point. There's a lot of that going on. I mean, I tend to I hate definitely the dream sequence cop out or something, in movies when you have the like, is this really happening at all? And even like
Oh
Fight
yeah,
Club or something, where I'm just like, well,
yeah.
you gotta figure out
The
who you
main,
are
yeah,
before I'm gonna like listen to the story, man. I have like
yeah.
friends that love those, even like Total Recall or something like that. But it's just like, it goes back to the Wizard of Oz ending. I'm like, I prefer to just think it was all real and not just a dumb dream. It's like,
Yeah,
come on.
it's always a bad cop out, that isn't it? That bad
Totally.
little cliche. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like it's
was
all
it
dream.
all real? Yeah,
So yeah, the way we handled this, I guess you had come up with a bunch of them, just kind of kicking the idea around when we were messaging initially. So we got a list of possible what ifs, and I throw it out to our Patreon crew, and they hit back with quite a few cool ones too. And I figured we just kind of walk through them. I left them kind of mixed up. At one point, I was like, maybe I should like kind of categorize them where ones for certain periods would be together. So there might be some double tracking where we repeat, reasons for something over as we bounce around through the eras. But I also thought it might be a little more fun to have it be hodgepodge and bouncing all around. So awesome. So shall we kick it off then? I think we set the stage for this false world that we're going to be diving into.
yeah. Let's
Let's
go.
do it. All right. This one, first question then, was from the most recent Cure album, 413 Dream. And he proposed, well, what if it was just a double album, as it was supposed to be? Sometimes the craziest reality is the one that was supposed to be. So just something as simple as that is, what if it was a double album? And a lot of wrinkles could have been different because that is the most recent Cure album still. And I don't know. I think it probably would have won as a fan, if you don't mind me going first. As a
Yeah, you
fan,
go
I
first.
think,
Yeah,
more is always better, even if it was a bunch more mediocre songs or whatever. At least the odds were there to get another few gems that we could, you know, cherish for the next 13 years now. We're on 14 years since that album. So especially knowing there'd been such a huge gap, I would have definitely been in favor, like many Cure fans, I think, of just having the double album, whether it was any good or not. Just having more would be slightly better. But I think the idea of just like Robert being happier too might have changed a lot, in the sense of that was what he really wanted. And I kind of detected through interviews that he did seem a little soured and maybe defeated by the time the thing came out, and it wasn't his true vision of it. And maybe that's what led to not really wanting to put out more albums since then, because he's kind of reached that point where maybe he can't win every argument with how the album should be. So I wonder too, if he had gotten his way, maybe we would have gotten more albums in general after that. So what do you think, John?
pretty similar prediction to yourself there.
Yeah.
I think obviously from what we've kind of been told from the odd little bits and pieces was one disc was going to be the kind of pop Cure, and one disc was going to be the more darker
Yeah.
doom and gloom Cure. So if the double album came out as was implied, I think the darker stuff would have definitely been. Bloody hell, sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem.
The darker stuff would have definitely been probably received better critically, at least.
Yeah.
Especially with the fans. Maybe I don't know about the general consensus. On a downside to that, I'd probably think that the tour would have maybe had too much new material,
True.
which could have affected the sales. A lot of people don't really like hearing the newest stuff when they go on tour, do they?
Right.
We would have it could never be the same was a 413 session
Right.
song, wasn't it? He did say that, didn't he?
Yeah, that and Step into the Light.
So we would have got that for sure, and I think that would have been down a smash hit instantly.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like you said, I don't think Robert would have been as annoyed and kind of frustrated and kind of heartbroken by the whole label process, and we'd probably have some more albums now if this kind of happened.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I like that point of the tour, because I think on those shows they'd probably only played maybe a handful of the ones from that album. They still kept it pretty sparse. So hard to say.
Yeah.
But if they were good on the double album, then maybe it would have made totally been fine with it being like a 413 stacked live show.
Yeah.
So who knows?
I think this is always kind of like the problem, that like we always assume that this lost second half of the album
Yeah.
is good. We
Yeah.
always just assume that, don't we? Just because of from what was kind of hinted about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you look at it more realistically now, I've come on this show and talked about 413 in the past, and I don't mind it overall, but it's, it was a return to form in some ways, but it wasn't, it just didn't really quite reach them levels. And I think looking back on it, like the production and the mix is a bit of a mess,
Yeah.
and it's just like, even if these darker songs were like really great, well written songs, I think kind of like that style with the, especially that boost of just the guitars and the kind of muddied vocals would have just brought them down and just kept the album at the consistent kind of
Yeah.
level that it already is now in, our real
Right.
life timeline kind of thing.
Yeah, true, true. Because yeah, like on one hand, you have a song like "It Could Never Be the Same," which is awesome, and I wish that was on the album. But
Yeah,
then, but
exactly. If
the
you could imagine Underneath the Stars and It Could Never Be the Same on the
yeah,
same album, that already boosts it up 1 point on the album score to me. Like,
yeah, for sure. But the fact too that the B sides I wasn't crazy about. I know some people liked them, but I thought like all the B sides were misses pretty much. So I was kind of like, ugh. So if it was just more of that, then.
yeah,
But
true,
true, but
true.
maybe those were always meant to be B sides. So when you got B sides to a double album, that's always going to be a little harder to do something amazing on.
Yeah, yeah.
So cool. Well, good points. Yeah, well, I guess we'll never know. Like all these. Shall we move on to the next one?
Yep.
Number two, we start getting into some personnel ones where we talk about members. So the first one, what if Pearl had never left? And I guess you have to put the little asterisk there as like which time. So maybe from the top, even if Pearl had just never left from the very start, that would have been kind of probably a mess because I can't see Pearl really digging the dark era right off the bat, even of what is, even though the guitar playing is clearly amazing and awesome. I think probably was the best to wait for around top to bring Pearl into the mix there. But yeah, so that's a little tricky, but I think what most people probably refer to as after Wish, how much would things been different having
Yeah, I
Pearl
put
around?
After Wish.
Yeah, so that's a tough one. I mean, I think for a lot of it, Wild Mood Swings is just a bit rough because of the lineup change. Like it just hadn't really got its feet on the ground yet.
Yeah, definitely.
So I
Yeah.
think that's the main kind of thing to ponder there is the idea of like, well, some of those songs probably would have been a lot cooler with, Pearl guitar playing on it, or at least made it feel a little bit more like classic Cure. So, what do you think?
Yeah, as I say, I kind of took it from After Wish. The only thing I could really kind of think of is, yeah, they probably would have gone into the Wild Mood Swings. Um, they would have gone into like the Wild Mood Swings kind of sessions, and I think it probably would have been a lot tighter. I think what we've kind of seen from history is that when Robert gets his way and has full control, things go a little off the rails.
Yeah,
He's a fantastic artist, but sometimes he just needs that reining in from a peer. You know what I mean? Someone equal to his level. Whereas when he's the absolute top dog with
right.
no kind of pushback, that's kind of when we get into the top and the Wild Mood Swings territory and all that.
hmm Yeah, it's pretty interesting and a Matt, a listener, also had told us a few episodes back now. I guess I wasn't too aware from the start. I guess that doing the Unstuck was kind of one of the later, if not the last one, recorded for the Wish sessions and stuff. And the idea of like how that's already kind of starting to segue a bit into what would become Wild Mood Swings. And you kind of think of a song like that. And like, oh yeah, that would have been kind of cool because Pearl's all over that. Like could have made kind of a song, like a more happy-go-lucky song or something off of Wild Mood Swings, a little cooler the way doing the Unstuck is. So you kind of definitely at least one little shred of an evidence that could have been, yeah, Mick Carr might have had a way cooler kind of groove to it or something, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I think maybe with them being less in a chaotic state,
yeah,
um, you know.
true. But yeah, I guess as we shift to Boris in the same boat, really. What if Boris never left, or at least didn't leave after Wish? Um, yeah, I think like you said, the main thing would just be the consistency of the lineup and having it feel like familiar Cure in a sense, you know. I feel like his playing is amazing, of course. I just did the Jason episode where still stand by the side that I don't have anything against Jason's playing. If anything, it's the tones. So I think if on a Wild Mood Swings kind of album, to have like Boris's tones might have been a little cooler. But at the same time, I'm not really sure the drum beat really ruined any of the songs I don't like and stuff, It was kind of just that the song kind of isn't that great, But so yeah, it's hard to say. What do you think? Could Boris have wrangled it in more?
To be honest, it's not really something I'd really know too much about with kind of that angle of the music. It's not always the part I've focused on.
Yeah.
I think to be honest, like say if neither of them left, the longer you're together, the stronger the bond is. Obviously with members leaving and other members coming in, it kind of breaks that flow a bit, and that kind of explains Wild Mood Swings and why it is just kind of such a chaotic kind of jumble of
right.
hot and cold.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, that's kind of what makes it that way. Especially because by that point with Wish, they had all kind of brought in more demos and stuff. And I don't think that was happening, with Wild Mood Swings, not nearly as much anyway, like the idea that they would have those initial sessions where, Pearl had songs, Boris had songs, everybody was bringing in something, and at best by Wild Mood Swings, I think it was all Robert and Simon and maybe a Perry song here or there, and that's it. So it definitely, while the band playing and stuff is tighter, yeah, the actual or the sound is tighter, but the relationships, they probably all totally killed each other if they had stuck around. So who knows? Yeah. So, is it better to have the music or them totally hate each other? So, I guess we'll shift from that one. I'll skip ahead on my list anyway, even though I said I wouldn't bounce around, but we do have some other member ones that kind of fit in that while we're in that boat, I guess. We had the idea of what if Lowell stayed as the drummer the whole time, I guess, or I guess asterisk in the sense that he probably wouldn't have made it past Disintegration no matter what. So maybe we'll say up to Disintegration, even if Lowell had stayed at drummer, how would that have really shifted the sound? That's for sure. So I'm not sure they could have done it at all if they're doing songs like Shake Dog Shake or Caterpillar even or something. I don't know. Maybe it would have just had more of the vein of the old dark era stuff. But you think they could have pulled it off?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, as I say, I don't follow the kind of history of the personal lives, but obviously I know at that period of time, Lowell was kind of losing the plot, wasn't he?
Yeah.
With the drug addiction and stuff like that. And so, I don't know, perhaps him staying would have caused more drama, more of a rocky path for them moving ahead.
Yeah, it's hard to tell anything on that if you take the actual music aside or anything like that. Yeah, but I mean, I could see a version of Disintegration with like dark era Cure drums, though. If you really just focus on the music, I don't, it would have definitely been more stripped down still, but it could have worked. I guess the hard part would be like Kiss Me or something like that, where there's just so much variety all over. You wonder if he could swing it with the drum skills on those, or if it just would have had the same impact as far as busting out something that's slow and darker versus Why Can't I Be You or something.
See, I'm like you hear of the term like tone deaf, don't you?
Yeah,
I'm like drummer deaf. I really, like for someone who loves music so much and has been in bands and has written music,
Yeah.
drums to me are just such kind of like background
Yeah.
noise. Is that, as long as it's
Right.
keeping a beat, the drums to me really don't like it. But it's one of them. I know they do, so I know I'm just kind of being like ignorant and naive on it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like as I say, I'm completely like deaf to it. I can't play them. I
Right.
can't understand them. I can't write drum parts for people.
Yeah.
I just point to the drummer in my band and say, "Do it with more that,"
Yeah. Yeah.
and he look at you like, "What?"
Right. Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way too. Where it's
Yeah,
more like faster, slower, keep it steady, start and stop at the right time. Cool, we're good to go. Anything. I mean, I guess you really notice it when it's an exceptionally cool beat, and I notice it when it's an exceptionally like stupid beat. But otherwise, it's like, yeah, you can probably I guess, yeah, like you said, yeah, it just makes me, it's like I know I'm being ignorant about it too, there's way more to it than that, but I'm always more the songwriter kind of dude, where it's like, you got a great song, you can put pretty much any fucking beat behind it as long as it's not ruining it, but
yeah,
at the same time, you could have a really awesome drum beat, and if it's a stupid song, then it's still a stupid song. So I'm kind of like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So, so all the drummers can send their hate mail to us now, but but something to that. Let's see what else. Who we got? Any other member ones? Oh yeah, we did have a Simon. What if Simon? And this was from Coulter on the Patreon. So I'll try to give credit to the ones that sent in specific ones. Coulter on the Patreon said, "Simon, what if Simon didn't leave after pornography?" So you wonder, would they have done the pop singles anyway? You think, or was that?
What I've put down is probably let's say like I kind of base it on Robert still goes in the studio with the concept of the top,
Mm-hmm.
but I reckon Simon probably would have clashed with Robert on some of the songs, so it might come out a little bit tighter and a little less weird and poppy. It might be an album people look back on a bit more fondly than the top,
Yeah.
in our timeline. Let's say that the top's another one. I've had a weird relationship where I've come back to it at times and gone, oh, actually, this is a little underrated gem. And then I've listened to it again and gone, actually, this is a bit shit.
Right.
It's it depends what mood you catch me on, but
Yeah.
there's definitely no signs of Simon on the
Yeah.
top album, and I think that one reason alone is what makes it sound so like distinct from the other albums and kind of gives it that underdog wild card kind of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So with
Yeah.
Simon in the band, I'm trying to think of it sounding a bit more like Head on the Door-ish,
Yeah.
which I would have liked more personally. I think some fans would have liked a bit more personally. It's kind of funny because like that whole period of the band, it's just like everything's happening so fast, and it's just like album every year,
Yeah.
album tour. So it's like there's no time to kind of like reflect on things. They would, they went straight from pornography into the top, into Head on the Door, into Kiss Me. It
Right.
was just like a wild kind of time period of the Cure, but it would just like constantly shifting and changing and evolving. So I don't think we would have got like pornography part two.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
I think that era probably definitely kind of gone and kind of gone from like Robert's kind of how he was feeling on it. So I
Mm-hmm.
think he would have come in with the top, and he probably would have come in with the top songs. But I could imagine him showing them to Simon and telling me like, I don't really like that. I don't really want to
Right.
play the bass for Love Cats, or
Yeah. I feel like we
that's
definitely
on
would have
Japanese
lost.
Whispers, isn't it? But still,
Yeah. But yeah, those are the ones I think we probably would have definitely lost was Love Cats and Let's Go to Bed even. They might have
yeah,
done something to
which
kind of segue out of the pornography era, like doing like Just One Kiss and stuff. I could see those being Simon, like in that vein. And like you said, and just like a truer kind of form of the top, but couldn't have gone straight into Head on the Door, I don't think either. So there is a weird gap for sure. But yeah, it's weird, like when you watch In Orange and stuff, of how cooler the top sounds, to me. The songs on the top, I've said in the past, or it's like, it's weird. I love them on that, but I'm not crazy about the album. I still love it, but I think I like it because of those. And it probably is because it's something about that Simon playing. It makes them feel more like Natural Cure songs, or something, like Piggy in the Mirror or something like, sounds amazing on that, but on the album, I'm kind of like, that's cool. But
Yeah,
so you wonder.
it was the one album by them that I kind of avoided for a long time.
Yeah.
And then when I saw them in, was it 2014 now? No, when they did the free Hammersmith shows,
Mm-hmm.
and they played, it wasn't like start to finish, but they played the entirety of the top, didn't they?
Right. Yeah.
And a
Yeah.
lot of the songs I wasn't familiar with. And I was like, oh, they sound really cool. What album are they off? And it was like, they're off the top.
Yeah.
So I go and listen to the top, and I'm like, these weren't the songs I heard the other night.
Yeah, totally. So there's something that definitely translates better when with Simon in the mix.
Yeah.
As you would expect. Cool. Let's see. Let's move on or move back on my list too. We had, I guess this one kind of deals with a person too, as we jump way later in the Cure timeline again. My favorite topic. What if Ross Robinson stuck around, like, because they had a 3-album deal with Ross Robinson, right? And what if they couldn't escape this deal? So I don't know what angle that would really take, but the idea that I guess Ross Robinson would have produced 413 and another album. So I guess, on some level, I'd be happy because that means we would have another actual Cure album, because they would have had to have one more on top of even if it was a Ross Robinson produced. And even trying to cut him a break for once, the idea of like the self-titled album, it's not too much on the production side that drives me nuts on that album. It is more the songwriting, and we can't even officially blame him for that. It's kind of,
I've always thought that.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the guitar tones and everything sound cool. The drums sound cool. His voice is a little cranked in the mix, but I think that's a Robert thing. Then Dave Allen said that he loves turning his voice up real loud. So, yeah, it's hard to say. The band probably would have gone crazy and more people would have left from getting candles thrown at them and stuff. So we might not have the same band by the end of the 3rd album. But what do you think? Would have been the death of the Cure?
I know exactly what would have happened. This is my precise prediction.
What's up?
Which I used by doing a bit of black magic.
Yeah.
So Ross album 2 would have been a featured album with many new metal artists. Jonathan Davis of Korn features on a track. Fred Durst does a rap on a track called Pics of You Too. And you ready for me, Fred Durst? And this is how the song goes. He goes, yeah, Limp Bizkit, Robert Smith, let's go.
Oh my God.
Robert Smith does scat singing. Have you ever heard Korn when they do the scat singing?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Robert Smith just unleashes. Unfortunately, the album tanks. It officially becomes the worst selling record of all time. The Cure break up and we never hear from them ever again. That's what happens.
So we wouldn't have got the 3rd one anyways.
No, it would have been such a disaster. It just would have fallen apart.
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, whatever deal they worked out.
Robert quits the Cure and he goes and plays guitar for Slipknot.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. It just keeps getting better. This is that dark path of the alt history that we don't. Oh my God. Yeah, wow, that would have been a nightmare for sure. So it's weird though, in actual history of how we don't really ever hear. I don't think I've ever heard like the legit reason how they got out of it. Like did it just implode from the label? Did Ross Robinson just kind of not want to do it anymore, so he had the choice? Or
I think in all seriousness, it was probably more of just like a mutual agreement, wasn't it? It was probably like. Like as I say, you've all shit on Ross in the past, but clearly with him trying to work with the Cure, he was trying to branch out at least and try something out of his comfort zone. It's a funny time period, that kind of era, because that was like the peak of like like Tim Burton popcorn flicks and stuff, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory remake and all that. And it kind of made sense for The Cure to kind of try and recapture that young audience with the kind of the current wave of kind of goths, emos, alternatives.
Right.
I don't fully really I can't really go too hard on them for that
Right.
self-titled album because I can see the mindset,
Hmm.
but I think I just don't think the vision was fully there.
Right.
Yeah, I like The End of the World,
Yeah.
Before Free, even Alt End I think's okay.
Yeah. There's some
Um,
good ones on there.
I think maybe they should have kind of embraced, Ross Robinson's kind of background as a, more in the new metal, obviously like early Korn and stuff, and maybe gone a bit more of a darker, kind of spookier
Yeah.
kind of thing because it was kind of like this weird mash of like pop songs but angry.
Right.
It,
Yeah.
it was it was very strange on that. I think we can just put it there.
Yeah. It just didn't quite
I'm not
fit.
willing to drop £200 on the vinyl for it just yet, but
Right.
I'm eagerly waiting for that record store day picture disc of it. Like,
Yeah, here it is. For sure. Yeah. So interesting to think that could have happened there, but I don't know. That Fred Durst rap, that might have been one that just finished him off for sure. Let's see. We've talked a lot about Wild Mood Swings already, so there's a good one that says, "Well, what if Wild Mood Swings was their most successful album? The flip side of if it just continued this mainstream success of Wish and blew them up even bigger, Mint Car #1 hit. Everyone's going, all the kids are going wild for the 13th."
could you imagine that?
It'd been so weird. But yeah, it's hard to say. Almost like you had touched on earlier, though, it probably would have been worse than anything because the idea of Robert making so many of the top decisions with that and being so in control that he would have on some level just been like, all right, well, I could do anything after that. If this is like the fucking be all, the next album would have been totally ridiculous, I'm sure, or he just could have done,
Yeah, pure
taken.
freeform jazz album.
Yeah, he probably would have tried some crazy shit like that. So you wonder if it would have been too hard to pull him back from that if it had done really well. Of course, I would have been happy for their success, but at the same time, I think it was good to kind of humble them a little, make it so we could actually buy tickets for their shows still. If we wouldn't had that small setback, it would have been like totally impossible to ever see them live again. So
Yeah, it's definitely a time period. Obviously, I was like 5 when all this went down,
right.
but it's definitely a time period that I like. I always like these kind of like these kind of mid stages of bands when I look back at their histories because I always find it like so interesting, like kind of what happens kind of after the peak,
Yeah.
after the highs and stuff. And as I say, it's interesting that this band that just like kind of blew up and gone global, big,
Hmm.
stadium level band, and then they release this kind of bit of a commercial dud,
Hmm.
and it brings them back down to the arenas, and you can get yourself a nice cozy space up at the front.
Right.
Definitely not a bad thing, is it? Because as I say, like by the time I got into the Cure, they were in legacy
Yeah.
status, you know what I mean? They were known as this legendary band from the 80s. So, in the 90s, it was an interesting period of time, wasn't it? Because grunge just slaughtered everything.
Yeah.
It killed metal. Well, I didn't get, you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
shifted everything. Like, bands like I was watching that. You see that Disney Plus series that Tommy and Pam.
No, I haven't watched it, but I heard
It
about it.
goes,
Yeah, is it
as I
good?
said, I don't listen to Motley Crue, but it goes into it. It's interesting because it shows obviously Motley Crue and how they kind of struggle
Yeah.
going into the 90s with grunge kind of taking over and them being seen as kind of like dinosaurs.
Right.
I think the Cure were kind of definitely in that kind of territory where they were seen as the old way, the old
Yeah.
sound.
Yeah, I mean, from
Um,
both sides, even with the Britpop angle too, and
yeah,
just that they were
exactly. Yeah, there was a lot shifting,
just
wasn't
a,
there, in the 90s? So
yeah,
I
especially
think
just
Wild
in
Mood
that
Swings was
gap.
always gonna go a bit like that. But I came up with a fun prediction, which is basically the success. They starts a new trend with every new wave 80s band makes a Wild Mood Swings style album. So next thing you know,
Yeah.
New Order and Depeche Mode and all that coming
Bringing
out
in
with their own little versions of the 13th.
right.
The
Taking the mariachi band on tour with
Yeah,
them.
yeah. The band continue to make bizarre music,
Yeah.
in a similar style to that.
All could have been possible, man. It all could have happened. So, all right, let's move on to the next one. Let's see. We got Robert Smith. What if he officially went solo after pornography? Right at Let's Go to Bed, we'll say, because that was such a departure from the Cure, and he just full on. Probably never would have done it just because of his name isn't the most exciting. Robert Smith, To us, it sounds godlike,
Yeah,
but
it
to the
wasn't
average
it
person.
wasn't back then. Yeah. It wasn't
Yeah.
back then, but it is now.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of them, and it's like, when people say the Cure, some people say Robert Smith of the Cure, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
for
it's
sure.
it's kind of interesting. You definitely can't put all the credit to him when it comes to the Cure, despite him obviously being the one consistent member,
Right.
besides mostly Simon,
Yeah.
and everyone else has kind of dipped in and out. Um, I reckon he so after pornography, I reckon he decides to put the Cure name to bed, and no pun intended, does Let's Go to Bed, but does it under his own umbrella. He'd probably kind of be like, I don't know, it could have gone a couple of ways, couldn't it, really? But he probably would have kept going with that style a bit, with the poppier
Right.
stuff, for a few years. And you might see one of his records in a boot sale for, the Let's Go to Bed stuff and all that. To be honest, as much as I do like it, it's very kind of dated 80s pop music, isn't it? It's kind of one of them. Did the band get him back on track for Head on the Door, or was it kind of through his own
Right.
kind of doing? You know what I mean? That's my kind of what I kind of ponder. Would he have just done albums like Head on the Door and Kiss Me, and even Disintegration just under his own name, and just always had
Yeah.
a backing line of session musicians? I think if he did that, and the Cure just became Robert Smith, I
Right.
think they probably still will be as big as they are today.
Yeah.
Um, it's hard to say. It's a tricky one, that one.
Yeah. I think it's like you can look at it too as like it probably wouldn't have been that different because on the stretch from like the singles to the top even is pretty much considered a Robert solo album by a lot of people, and even as you go into the writing ahead on the door, because he pretty much got all that rolling himself. He's like credited solo writer on all those, so it's kind of like
Yeah,
it's hard to say once they all got recording it in the studio if it got a little more of that Simon flair and Boris adding so much life to it, but the same time, up until at least Head on the Door probably would have been about the same. But then it's hard to imagine, like you're saying, like an album like Kiss Me, definitely Disintegration, because they were bringing in those demos again and stuff, Simon's bass line for Love Song and stuff like that, it's just all these things that, would we have just gotten a whole bunch of top albums, like, or at best, like a really kind of stale Head on the Door,
yeah. It's
So,
like
so
like
it's hard
as I
to.
said, going back earlier on, I think Roberts always at his best when he's got some pushback.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a George Lucas scenario, isn't it? Because the,
Yeah,
the
for
original
sure.
trilogy wasn't just all his say, was he? There was a lot of people kind of,
Yeah.
talking into his ear on that. But when the prequels came around, it was entirely his vision.
Yeah.
It was still Star Wars, but it
Yeah,
was
people are afraid to be like, maybe we should tone that down a little.
yeah. Maybe we should get rid of Jar Jar. No,
Yeah.
Jar Jar stays. Jar Jar's the best.
It's like the lead. It's like maybe just cut some of his lines down a little. He literally has more lines than Ewan McGregor. Come on. But yeah, I think there is a huge part of that, and even a little bit of wild mood swings, you could get back into that territory where people were kind of like, like nobody was really around to step up and kind of challenge him on things. Everybody was kind of floating around in that degree too. So it's hard to say. Maybe as a solo artist, he would have kind of worked that out too, like a lot of people do as solo artists. Once the first couple albums are a little rough, and then they get into
let's say
something.
he could have got himself a pretty solid, kind of backing band.
Yeah,
Maybe they've even had Simon involved, and maybe even some of the same members, but the name was just not The Cure.
Right.
And it was Robert Smith. Obviously, that doesn't have the same kind of stick to it, but I'd say, Robert Smith is just as much of a household name as The Cure.
Yeah.
Anyone who knows The Cure, even just from the radio, tends to know Robert Smith.
Right.
So his name's well known. I think he could have still sold himself off his name alone. But that's obviously going down the route of he made the music similar or consistently similar to what The Cure did, really. And it didn't go all toppy poppy.
Right. So yeah. I'm gonna go full pop there. Let's move on to the next one. What if Robert changed his look? Everybody always loves to dwell on the fashion sense of Robert Smith and The Cure. Let's say maybe by like 96-ish even, he just goes full on normal looking, has a goatee, maybe loses his hair and wears jeans on stage. goes for the Dave Matthews look or something. Yeah. The hoodie and the
backwards baseball cap.
It's like, oh God. I, as a diehard true Cure fan, I feel like I would stick by him if he looked totally schleppy up there, but at the same time, it's hard to say. I think if you had the whole like back look, you could always look dorkier as you get older and still be fine, but at the same time, yeah, I don't know. I like that he stuck to it. A lot of people always like want him to just cut his hair and stop wearing makeup and grow up or whatever. I'm like, nah, man, that's what makes him him. It's
yeah,
and it's not like he goes to the grocery store looking like that. We all know that he can tone it down and stuff. It's not like he's goes full raccoon for everything. But
so iconic, isn't it? It's like you can spot him through his silhouette, and I think he'd already made his name by that time, that he would, if he would have done that, he probably would have got away with it. And besides a bit of fan outcry, I don't think it would have affected them too much.
Yeah.
I still think he rocked that look well into like the late 2000s.
Yeah.
He's still doing it now, and it's Robert, and we love him for it. But
you think you're ready for the downgrade?
Yeah. Can we have Robert Smith? We have Robert Smith at home. Robert Smith at home.
Yeah.
He
could get away with casual Robert that we've seen in pictures with no makeup and just kind of slightly flatter hair. His hair's just kind of fizzling there now, so it's kind of like I could see that working. Nobody would be totally destroyed if he came out on stage without the
I think it would have been bad if he really started to like go bald or thin, or there was some significant kind of change to this, especially his hairstyle. It would have kind of looked bad,
especially if it happened like around like Disintegration or something. You know what I mean? If like normal people, if he had just started to like thin out and get whatever, like by like when he's still cranking out stuff, like now it's like whatever. He's a 6-year-old man. Let him lose his hair. And, the fact that he's got anything up there looks great. I'm like, you're my hero.
It looks natural, doesn't it? He's still got that natural brown.
Yeah, something in
there
and
stuff. So he's doing well. He's doing well.
Yeah. So So yeah, I guess we won't solve that one, but it would be, and I think even like '96, just if he changed his look, of course he wouldn't have gone full baseball cap and goatee, but like he could have managed to look cool still and have a normal, like more normal or just different. I think he could have slowly backed out of it, and the fans would have been fine with that.
Yeah,
But
the Blood Flowers album cover mightn't have worked as well, like, but
yeah. All right, next one. What if The Cure stuck to putting out an album every 4 years since 2008? So really, we would have three more albums, which could be good or bad. It might have just totally watered down, the the full package if they had put out like three like really just mediocre albums.
yeah, yeah.
I still
I think,
subscribe to the
yeah,
more is better, whatever. At this point, I'll take anything. If it has just one good song on it, that'd be nice for me. I'm happy with that. But, you want him to believe in what he's doing and put out quality stuff. So I do stick by him for that idea of like he's not going to just crank out any crap, But, it's hard to say. But yeah, it's crazy to think because they did have a pretty good run of every 4 years since like Wish, I think was when it started being every four.
yeah,
So
yeah.
if they'd stuck to that, we'd have three more albums.
Yeah,
Crazy.
as I say, it's only what them albums would have consisted of. I think what I kind of thought was 414 Scream would have come out in 2012 since there was already a disc of material.
Okay.
The new album that we're currently waiting on,
Yeah.
June of
What?
this year, would have come out in 2016, which would have made sense because they were. I think it's still the same lineup now, isn't it? From
Yeah, that was the
2016 to
last
now,
big
so it
official
probably would
tour.
have.
So.
We probably would have got this quote unquote new album about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I think it probably would have been an improvement on the 413 kind of sessions overall. And
Yeah.
then I thought the new album would have been due for 2020,
Yeah.
but obviously COVID happened, and I reckon it would have been delayed. And I reckon this year we would have got album number 3.
True. Yeah.
That's my prediction.
Unless they had it like ready to go that first month or something, but yeah, that sounds more realistic for sure. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so probably not enough to totally tip the scales and change things forever, but it would have been cool to have three more.
No, I
So
mean,
maybe
you
we
think
will still
about it,
get
yeah.
three. Maybe that's what the three albums is. He's had them on standby. he's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
he's stockpiling them. He's gonna drop them.
Yeah, I mean, an album equals tour, doesn't it? And you think about it, they pretty much have consistently kind of
Yeah.
done at least a world tour every about 4 years, haven't they?
Mm-hmm.
They did.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
can't
like
remember
that
what they did around like
2016 tour.
2012, but they did like festival headlines for quite some couple of years, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
think.
then 2016 obviously was a world tour, and now this year is a world tour as well. So they've consistently toured. So I don't think we've missed out on too much, except for 3
Actual.
albums worth of music, which
Yeah.
again is entirely down to what that music would have consisted of.
Right.
It's kind of like we all think Scream, the
Yeah.
414 Scream album is this secret hidden album of absolute gems.
Yeah.
We assume this new album is going to be like a masterpiece, kind of based on the weight, but
Yeah.
I have obviously niggling doubts. If it was that good, it would have been out. I don't know why it takes so long to finish an album, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. You'd
It's
think
been
it
in the
would be.
finishing stages for quite some time now.
Yeah. Or even going back to the idea of the 414 thing, if he had some hidden, just like heaven gem on that or something, it would have popped up in a live show. The fact that, it can always be the same. It can never be the same. This is an awesome song, but it's not like top
Well,
of the chart, best of Cure shit
yeah,
ever, but
we
it's just a
never
cool.
talk about Step Into the Light, do we?
Yeah, exactly.
We forget about that one.
If that one was good enough to resurface after the album was dead and buried, then the other ones were probably like, they might be cool. Hard to say. But he's also not the best judge, probably, of like what's a great song on the album at this point. He's probably like the last. There probably is some like amazing exploding boy type song or something. He's like, yeah, I just never liked that one. You're like, what? That album was that song's so good.
Yeah,
But
well, as the time we're recording this, they've just announced the Wish reissue, haven't they?
yeah,
And
so
I think I was looking at some interview he'd put out on it, and he was saying like, "Oh, I didn't realize some of the great songs we had on this album." It's like,
great.
how often do you listen to your back catalogue, Robert?
So it turns out
Because
this is really good.
you've been neglecting some tracks off that album. So yeah,
Yeah,
maybe if he does like sliding into his vault and
yeah,
check out Scream, he might realize what a crime he's committed upon the world of not
It's like, this
releasing
is
it.
great. This is the best Cure album ever.
Yeah.
So, awesome. All right. Moving on from that, we have a couple questions from Matt on the Patreon. He says, what if Alan Wilder from Depeche Mode had agreed to join The Cure in 95 when leaving Depeche Mode? And there's a link there of when he left. Apparently, he said that Robert did offer him to join The Cure, but he didn't want to join another big band. And yeah, so he would have been on board for Wild Mood Swings had he said yes. So what if he had joined? They had gotten some. It's like when a baseball team or somebody like gets that all-star player from another. Does it work? Does the chemistry work? A lot of times, no. But it would have been interesting. And then what we've talked about with Wild Mood Swings and the idea of, I don't know my Depeche Mode context nearly as good as like Cure stuff, but it sounds like he's credited a lot to the arrangement and kind of helping sculpt a lot of their songs in the sense so much as just playing and coming up with the parts. But so like maybe an arranger or somebody just to be that extra person for Wild Mood Swings to bounce things off of, and collaborator would have really improved that album too. Hard to say. I mean, if you take it with the context of Roger wouldn't have come back then, or if they would have had both of them, then they could have had like mega Keys Assault album, almost turn it into like a Depeche Mode double synth kind of thing going. That'd been kind of cool too. So hard to say. I guess it would be a good thing, but I don't know. I feel like Roger covered all the actual Keys parts very well on Wild Mood Swings, so we wouldn't. It's not like the playing of any keys would have been greatly increased if you had the same songs, but with different player. What do you think?
I think maybe I say it's it's a big name coming into the band, and it could either be the dream team or the button of heads, the clashing of egos.
Right.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, that one. I think maybe if he came in, Robert, obviously because he's such a big fan of Depeche Mode, would have tried to kind of go down a Depeche Mode inspired kind of style on the album, and it could have been something completely different, and maybe the Cure may have even become something completely different. It's hard to say. As I say, but my uncle's a massive Depeche Mode fan.
Okay.
He would have put some good input on it, but
nice.
the Depeche Mode have some absolute quality bangers of tracks. Someone a creative mind like that in an already very creative big band like the Cure could have led to good things, or could have just been kind of like that dives on for one album, nothing works and he's gone,
Right. That
does happen.
It's like, cool, I'm out. He pulls a Johnny Marr and just he's like, okay, you're on your own now. It's like, wait, come back. But it's pretty cool. I wasn't, maybe I read that at some point, but I'd totally forgotten that was even on the table at one point as a proposal to him. Hard to say how serious it was, but pretty cool. Anytime you hear of like potential Cure bringing in a new member and it didn't work out is pretty rare, you would think. Let's move on to the next one. This says, kind of going back to the Ross Robinson idea, but what if it was a different producer for the self-titled album? let's say they were working with the exact same batch of songs, but had Dave Allen producing. Um, so yeah, then you get the flip side of Ross Robinson. I guess I kind of answered my opinion on that. It was like I still don't know if I'd be crazy about it just because the songwriting isn't my favorite. I think somebody like Dave Allen, I would have definitely loved to see what he could have done with it because he might have had a better touch of what kind of classic Cure to bring to the table, or just helping maybe pick better songs. In the process, I think there was a lot on self-titled that didn't make it onto the album, and we may not have even ever heard as far as outtakes and stuff. You kind of wonder if he just picked a lot of the ones he thought would work best with Ross Robinson and stuff like that. And so I almost wonder if a different producer probably would have been a better, arranger and stuff like that too. And even just the arrangement of some of the songs that could have benefited a lot on the self-titled. As much as I love End of the World, some of the songs they kind of go a little long, or just they come back to another section a little too much or something. I'm kind of like, I need to wrap it up. Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely those ones where he's like
Yeah.
howling by the end. I was like, we could have, like, Lost would have been a really cool song. I feel like if it was like 2 minutes long, it's like keeps going by like the fifth
I
minute.
completely forgot about Lost. I love Lost.
You love Lost,
I
yeah.
love Lost. Yeah, I remember hearing that, and that was my angsty teen years, and I remember that blowing me away. Like,
Yeah, that's
but
awesome.
yeah, we touched upon it before, didn't we? Really, where it's like, Ross Robinson wasn't exactly a great fit for the band, and from what we've heard, that he was like freaking out and trying to
Right.
engage anger in them and stuff like that was a
Yeah.
little unnecessary, and it's like I don't quite understand the result. You do that to Slipknot and you get a result because the
Right.
music is, in that kind of emotion. It's angry, it's aggressive. The
Right.
Cure's never really been like that. Maybe he could have tried to bring down a bit more of a sad emotion to the
Yeah.
music, especially songs like Going Nowhere and stuff like that. But getting back on topic anyway.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I just think the songwriting for them sessions was weak, very
Yeah.
weak. I mean, like the kind of the hits we kind of drag out of them.
Yeah.
End of the World, Before Free,
Yeah.
are kind of like probably the weakest hits, but still, I think every Cure album has something to take from it.
Right.
Even from that album, the stuff you're taking from it is, if it never existed, I don't think I'd be shedding any tears for it.
Right.
So yeah, I think it was more just kind of like the time period of the band where they were, the peak was behind them, the height of Wish and Disintegration was, long in the past. Music was going through another shift again.
Right.
I think it was just kind of, it was always going to be that way, wasn't it? I think
Mm-hmm.
obviously after kind of Blood Flowers, you wanted a lot more energy from them because that kind of did feel like sluggish and
Right.
bloated and kind of, what a parody band would write a Cure song, like that.
Right.
Like, when someone asks you to write like what a Cure song sounds like,
Right.
you know.
Here's a list of 10
um,
words and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, he said, she said.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it's an interesting one. I say it's a time period that interests me. It's a band kind of entering their kind of later days stage, and you want to make an impact. You want to kind of stay, I hate the word, but trendy and
Yeah.
contemporary. And I don't blame them for the mistakes they made on that album. But again, the band like The Cure have never really had the producers that have, like, so some bands live off their producers. Like, if it wasn't for their producers, they would not be the bands
Right.
they are. Whereas The Cure have always kind of felt like the producer comes in and helps,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it's always been their vision. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I
That's how
feel
I've
like,
always interpreted it anyway.
yeah, he
Um,
always kind of is on, he's got an idea going in. And yeah, if anything, I feel like as much as I always want to blame Russ Robinson for everything, it was probably, and he's even said in things he wanted to put some of the slower songs on there, and Robert was against it, and I'm just like, dude,
He's
really?
like, I hired you for a reason.
Yes, I mean, it's
What
kind of
make me
like,
angry?
yeah. So, I mean, you're really going to have to blame him more for a lot of the decisions, but it's easier to throw it on Ross. But same time, yeah, I think he would have done what he was going to do on some level, no matter who the producer was. I wish I had, I can't really off the top of my head think around 2004 who would have been like alt choices of somebody that could
Yeah.
have been cooler and made them
Do you
go in a
know? Do you know
different
who they were
direction.
like? Were they shopping anyone around, or was it?
I don't
Did they
think
just
so.
kind of go straight
Yeah.
to Ross? You know?
I think it was such a long process, and internet stuff wasn't quite as fast now. So by the time that I realized they were recording anything, he was already involved, and I was just shocked by that as a kid. I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah. As I
But,
say, I'm going to kind of show my lack of Cure knowledge here, but they've never really had a consistent like kind of producer, have they? It's always been someone different
yeah.
each time. Did they have like a? Was it the
Dave
same guy who
Allen.
did?
Yeah, Dave
Yeah,
Allen was the
Dave
main
Allen. Yeah,
dude that
yeah,
they worked with through Top, technically through Wish. So I mean, that's one of those
yeah.
things where it's
But
like,
what by mood swings, it was
yeah,
a
and
different
then
guy
got
each
that
time.
Steve
And it's funny
Lyon.
because
Yeah,
you get them bands, don't you? Who stick with the same producer for pretty much their like
yeah,
entire career. Like the Red Hot Chili Peppers have always had Rick Rubin,
yeah.
besides one the previous album before the latest one.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that does work to a benefit because there's always that consistency there. Whereas when you're bringing in someone new, it can always bring the new ideas, but at the same time, it can it's always a bit of a swing and a miss, isn't it?
Right.
So yeah, I guess with Dave Allen being out for 2 albums at this point and coming back, they might have brought back a bit of that consistency, a bit more of that Wish
Right.
era sound.
If nothing else, he could have dressed it up more like old Cure,
Yeah, but the
So,
thing I've always liked about the Cure is they've never kind of obviously when they were kind of starting 17 seconds Faith very similar, but they've never really repeated themselves too much, have they?
true. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like I don't want a Wish 2, I don't want a Disintegration 2.
Right.
I want the new thing, but I also want the new thing to be good, like Wish and
Right.
Disintegration.
Yeah. And I always say
And
that
not
was kind
like
of one of the hard
self-titled.
parts of Blood Flowers, even was that association with pornography and disintegration with the trilogy thing. I was like, they should have never said that, because then you're just
Yeah, I
putting it
never
in
got
there. And
that. That
it's
was
like,
and
if it was just its own thing, I would have liked it so much more. But at the same time, I'm like, really? Disintegration? Pornography? I'm just like,
yeah,
it's putting
my guess
the
is he just
bar.
kind of thought it was epic.
Yeah, I think
It
that's
does
it.
get epic at times, but it's not. It's no Disintegration.
Nah.
It's epic and it's consistent. Like the songs. The songs are pretty much all start to finish
Right.
fairly similar. So I can see it, but I can't. You know what I mean? I'm kind of grasping at straws to
Right.
make the comparisons.
Yeah, yeah. So, from Coulter, he says, "What if the singles released weren't the ones that we know, and other tracks had to be picked as singles from each album?" So this kind of goes back to that revisionist episode we did, where we just picked what could have been other singles and stuff. So that's a whole thing in itself. Again, I know I keep harping on Wild Mood Swings, but that's probably the one that's most questionable on like what could have been the single of choice. Would it have helped? Would it have hurt? I feel like all the other ones are pretty obvious that those songs had to be the singles. Maybe there's a couple semi-deep tracks that could have been, like
Yeah,
Head on the Door has a
I
few alt ones that for
yeah.
sure could have been in there, but I don't know. Wild Mood Swings is definitely the most like could have a different single have saved that album more. Mostly like success wise, like chart mainstream success wise, would people have been cooler to it if they had put something else?
I really couldn't see the band being as big as they are without just like without the singles of
Yeah,
just like Heaven, Friday
right.
I'm in Love, obviously. like Love Cats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The later period, however, this would have definitely worked because from like Wild Mood Swings, their
Hmm.
kind of single choices were kind of a bit of a mess,
Yeah.
especially on Wild Mood Swings. Like I would have definitely had like, probably like Once and Trap or something as
Yeah.
singles, and then did they even release singles for Bloodflowers?
No, that was kind of the
No,
thing that
yeah.
they said like as a thing, like it's so dark it doesn't have singles, and then
Yeah, I
the
guess if they release like There Is No If as a single,
yeah, they kind of
I
made
think
maybe someday the radio stations just grabbed it and made that. They're like, well,
yeah,
we need
yeah.
something, so
And
they kind of picked that one.
413 had four singles, didn't it?
Yeah,
And I think they started strong on the only one.
yeah, and then
Freak Show,
Freak
definitely
Show.
not. That should have been changed.
Yeah,
Maybe to hear the reasons why or something like that.
yeah, it's hard to.
But yeah, the later days, I could like this ideally may have helped the band out a lot more, but it's them early days where I really struggle to see them
Yeah, they're such a
hitting
singles,
making such an impact without in between days and
right?
like Lullaby and stuff like that. You think of Disintegration, the only the only songs you could kind of really use as singles were like Lullaby and Love Song and
Yeah,
Fascination Street. I couldn't imagine the same Deep Water as You
right. Here we go, The Cure with
working
their
as a
new
debut
single.
single.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
For even Prayers for Rain or something.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
It's
They,
like,
they
wow.
they were born to be, they were born to be album tracks, weren't they? Kiss Me had plenty to pick and
Yeah,
choose from, and
even
even Head on the
B-sides.
Door. Yeah, well, A Night Like This technically was a single, wasn't it? Was it in the US or the UK?
Not officially. Yeah, they
Was
made
it
a
not?
video
No,
for it, and yeah,
yeah.
it wasn't officially a single for some reason, unless they did
Well,
some
if
kind of
yeah,
promotion.
well, there you go. I think that would have. I
Yeah,
reckon that would have been a big enough hit for them.
yeah,
But I don't know. It's kind of one of them. Are they iconic because of the singles, or the, you know what I mean? Is it the
yeah,
other way around? Because to me, like In Between Days is just such a, it's not my favorite song, but it's so iconic
yeah,
and it just works so well as a single and a kind of like a preview, a teaser to this band, and it's so unique and it just screams The Cure to me. I struggle to kind of see a
yeah. It'd be
timeline
tough,
where that was left on the album
right?
and the general radio audiences, the general chart audience has never heard it.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I guess just the realistic side of that is, how many people that are Cure fans, the majority of all fell in love with like Staring at the Sea, the singles collection, or the greatest hits album, probably for later fans, where it's just like
Yeah,
those are
yeah,
what
great.
hook you, and then you get
Yeah.
into the
But
deep
then
shit.
again,
You're
though,
like,
now you say that, the greatest hits
yeah.
hasn't got the best hasn't got the best track listed. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I'm not.
Um,
But I mean, I guess if you'd never heard those, then sure,
yeah,
it's all like. But yeah, when I look at it, I'm kind of like, really? It like doesn't even have pictures of you on it. I think
because
I'm
that
like, what
was
the
my
fuck?
that was one of my first kind of that was my first kind of ventures into the Cure.
Yeah,
Before getting onto the studio albums was obviously picking up the greatest hits, and
right.
it does kind of leave you with kind of a different picture to what the band actually are
Right.
in general. So yeah, it's an interesting one, but again, I could never I can never see Sinking being a lead single.
Right.
I could never see Baby Screams being a lead single. To me, it
Yeah.
always had to be In Between Days and Close to Me.
Let's see. We got a question from Patreon crew again. We got Alan, and Alan goes back to the member lineup changes, and this time it's Robert in question. He says, "What if Robert had left The Cure in 1979 and joined Susie and the Banshees full time?" Or I guess even we could do that as a two-parter in '82 too, if he had just packed it all in after Pornography and gone full Banshee for the rest of his career. So I guess if he had left after '79, we'd only have one Cure album in, ever, and that would be Three Imaginary Boys. How do you think that would affect their legacy?
Well, if they only had one album, they probably would have really been forgotten to time.
Yeah. Would have been a lot harder to do this podcast, I think, if they'd only had the one album.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
for sure. What about if they only had four albums and he had left after '82? Would I think they probably could have had a dark goth band legacy then with those albums for sure.
Yeah, I could definitely see him being this kind of like underground. Or have you ever heard the band of The Cure? They only did like
Yeah,
4 albums.
reunite for
Yeah,
Coachella.
I could see that work, and they would like that. That would be like, obviously, it'd be a massive tragedy of what they followed up with, but it would have been a decent little bookend of kind of like a
Yeah,
consistent little run, except for that first album, but that was kind of like early days finding the footing. But
right.
I could see people seeing that as like a trilogy of like iconic albums by this band that came and went. Like, it's similar to, I don't know, people are going to get angry at this comparison, but the Smiths,
Yeah,
4 studio albums and out. Whatever
yeah,
happened after that with other members. But
yeah,
that's
yeah,
a body of work that most people would say is a consistent, solid body of work, and it's still listened to and loved to this day. Obviously, I mean,
yeah.
again, I don't want to stoke the flames too much, but I
No,
think
it's
the
all
Smiths
right.
did have more hit potential in their early days than the Cure did. So
Yeah.
the Smiths are a lot more mainstream than the first few Cure albums, at least. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and a lot of
So,
singles. So I mean,
yeah, yeah,
it's nice to actually have the flip side of that on here for a change. Right? I'm usually battling all the Morrissey hate, and I'm like, come on, guys. It's like, all right, but there's no denying the songs. But so yeah, I mean, I'm always amazed by the Smiths like time frame of how short that was when you really look at it, and just how many
yeah,
out. I mean, how many singles they squeezed in between all those albums, and I was just like,
yeah.
wow, man,
I
it's
say, yeah.
and it
Sometimes,
is.
sometimes I like that. Sometimes there's bands. Obviously, that this is a bit more of like my kind of era, but System of a Down
Uh huh.
only ever did, yeah,
Just a
yeah,
couple.
no, five albums.
Okay.
But that's it kind of with the Cure. Is obviously, they've got such a body of work. There's obviously some duds in there, and it is impressive when you can look at like a band's catalog and be like, all that is gold,
Yeah.
all that is solid.
Yeah.
um Obviously, it would have just been like an absolute tragedy if the Cure gave up at like 82,
Yeah.
and we never got anything past that.
Right.
But
But yeah, at
yeah,
least those 3, 4 albums would be golden. It'd be kind of Joy Division esque, I guess, in the sense that you have that with Joy Division, unfortunately. But it's not. There's no filler for sure. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
man, cool. Let's see. Question 14. The Cure. What if the Cure were featured prominently on the soundtrack of Stranger Things season 4? I'm assuming that's what the idea that they had a massive hit that would have them all over the internet again, like Kate Bush. Um,
Yeah, we're
I
running up
mean,
that hill.
I would
Yeah,
be happy for them, I guess. I guess there's Kate Bush fans out there that are pissed off that people are just catching on now. But I mean, isn't that the case with any time that a band has
yeah.
a
Well,
resurgence? I think yeah.
I've seen a lot of discourse about this. I've not seen Stranger Things, but
Yeah.
I obviously know enough about it. I've seen a lot of discourse, and it's kind of like a lot of people in my age range, and that's kind of like how people who are metalheads and alternative fans got a lot of abuse
Yeah.
growing up, and got
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of got a lot of bullying from the quote unquote normal crowd.
Right.
And now this kind of Stranger Things season's blown up, and there's like, isn't it like a metalhead character or
Yeah.
something like that
Yeah.
in it? And everyone loves him, and everyone's like embracing the music and wearing Metallica t-shirts. And
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of pushback from that, of people going, no, that's ours. We
Yeah.
suffered for this, and you shouldn't just jump on it, which I really don't agree with. And I think Cure fans as a whole are usually very happy when the Cure kind of get some kind of
No, I never.
recognition, because as
Yeah,
I say that, they've been a band that's, charted and had hits, but they always have been that. They always have been a bit of an underdog, haven't they? They've never been, fully like mainstream.
yeah,
So
they,
I think fans usually do get quite excited. Obviously, we have like Robert Smith appearing on South Park.
right.
Even more recent things like that viral clip of the Hall of Fame,
Yeah, yeah.
and
So,
the collaborations with like gorillas and churches and
hmm,
stuff like that, and the Glastonbury headline set. And whenever you see that, you look in the Cure community, and it's usually very positive.
yeah.
Whereas the Kate Bush is kind of like a, um, I'm sure there's plenty of decent Kate Bush fans, but I
Right.
think there is a bit more of a music elitism with Kate Bush.
Yeah, maybe.
You have obviously because she's a lot more of like a niche artist.
Yeah, you
So I
think
think there is a bit
everybody.
of a pushback, it can frustrate you really when it can't it when like everyone thinks of your favorite artist for this like one song, and you're just like, no,
Right.
listen to this and listen to that. No, I just want to listen to this because it's on the show.
Right, right. Yeah, I
I've,
could
I've
see that
definitely,
angle if all of a
yeah,
sudden Letter to
I've
Elise
definitely
became
experienced
the
that before. Yeah.
if Letter to Elise
Um,
became the Stranger Things song, you'd be like, what? What? So you'd just be like, it's cool that everyone loves it. But at the same time, I was like, yeah, that song's
yeah.
been way cool for so long. And
What song do you think would have worked for that? What song do you think they
I
could?
don't
Because as
know.
I say, they might still do this.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I'm sure. And the whole show's kind of just based on 80s nostalgia in the sense that it's a little overdone in my taste, where everything almost looks like product placement by the later seasons in particular, but so
yeah,
it's kind of like
that's
ugh, but I think they used it great though. It's actually part of the storyline and it's relevant. It's cool that she's using the song and saying the song. It's not like they just play it in the one scene that's cool or something. So
yeah,
it's
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 always good
great
in the sound. I
usage.
say you did soundtracks like a couple of episodes back,
Yeah,
didn't you?
yeah, just the last one
It's
and
always good when they incorporate the kind of soundtrack into the film or show
right.
rather than just play it.
Just playing
And
it
like
somewhere
was it
floating
Dora the
around.
Explorer? It just comes on where there's like
Yeah.
it kind of blends into it a bit more.
Yeah.
Fern
Yeah,
blends
yeah.
into it a bit more. So
But yeah, I don't know what the best. I guess they would be around 80. I don't know. The last season when they're all like full on mall, I could see some like head on the door, die hard, like in the thick of the 80s kind of stuff, going on. But as we did that movies episode and shows like in between days and close to me are like used all over the place, it would be cool to
yeah,
have something that's
that's
a
what I
little
mean. Yeah, running up that hill,
darker and
it's known, but it's not super well known, is it?
yeah,
So I
yeah. So,
think a lot of people heard that for the first time, whereas I think most people have heard the Cure, even if they don't know they've heard the Cure.
right. Yeah,
Um,
totally. It would have to be something
yeah,
like 70s Twins or Cold or something. Some
yeah,
like full on like dark era song, like what is this? Other voices or something. It's this huge number one hit now. So yeah, I'd be happy for it though. Along those lines, what if The Cure had linked up with Anton Corbin as their primary video director instead of Tim Pope? So, I think it just would have really embraced the dark and moodiness of The Cure, which could have been cool. They might have had the more artsy angle, but I think that was what's cool about Tim Pope is that he captured the goofy side too and made a lot of people, especially as they started covering more pop songs and dark songs, you're able to show people that they're a fun band too and not just Joy Division or something, where it's like,
yeah,
whoa,
yeah,
everything's super serious. So,
yeah.
so yeah, I don't know. I think it definitely would have hurt them as far as mainstream success and I can't imagine like an all black and white serious video for Close to Me or something. But
Yeah, the music video is like close to me. It's so iconic.
yeah, so it'd been tough to pull that off for the poppy songs, but I don't know. He's awesome director. I love all his stuff and just visually are always great, but it is always very serious for sure. So
It's kind of difficult to see something other than that, isn't it?
Right. All right, we are on question 16 as we're starting to wind down the list here. This is still from Alan here from the Patreon. He says, what if The Cure released a full-on rock album in 87 instead of Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me? So I think with the idea of with the pop blowing up in 87 and kind of shifting The Cure in the more mainstream pop, like dominating that world too. What if they had just gone full
Yeah.
on rock? He says similar to the Cult releasing Electric, which slightly familiar with the Cult, but I'm not super, so apologies there. Was that just like full on badass rock album or something? Are you familiar with the Cult?
I assume so.
Yeah.
I am aware of the Cult. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am aware of them.
Yeah.
I get where that question's coming from, because yeah, they've always been a hard band to like pin down, haven't they? You'll never hear them on a rock radio station, but you're not going to hear them on I Heart the 80s that much, are you?
Right.
I probably would have say I would have liked Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me more if it was like that, because I think of tracks like The Kiss,
Yeah. Like if it'd
and
been all
If
like
Only
that.
Tonight We Could Sleep, and that, and they are like pretty dark, like rocky tracks, and maybe with a bit more a bit more grain and a bit more kind of rawness to it. They could have sounded pretty cool, and it would have been a cool avenue. Saying that though, we would have obviously lost out on Just Like Heaven, and
Yeah.
I think that's like one of the most kind of perfect songs to ever
Yeah, you
exist.
can't.
And I've heard like recordings of them doing that during the self-titled era, where they kind of grunge it up, rock it
Right.
up a bit more, don't they? Especially when they drop the keys out the band for a bit,
Yeah.
and it really doesn't work. It's them keys and that piano and that kind of tempo and that tone that just make a song like that perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, like, yeah, I kind of like Kiss Me the way it is. See it
Yeah.
hard rock. I could see some songs definitely benefiting from it, but other songs suffering, because I say like some of the Kiss Me stuff goes using a kind of a zoomer phrase.
Yeah.
They go hard, you know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
songs do go hard, but they're not heavy, they're not like rock. Like Hey You, yeah, I could imagine that with like
Yeah.
banging
Yeah.
guitars. Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun.
You could have.
Yeah,
That would
that
have
that
been
would
way
have gone
cooler.
that would have gone pretty well. That, so like some
Yeah.
songs would have worked, and then I think Just Like Heaven still would have worked, because you think of that Dinosaur Jr. cover of it, and
True. Yeah.
it's nowhere near as good, but
Right.
so yeah, I mean, they say like going back with the Cure and how they've like kind of dipped their toes in like so many different styles, and each album brings something new. I can't see it like changing the future of the band up too much, because they could have just done that and then gone straight to Disintegration.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know what I mean?
you kind of wonder if, yeah, I guess just the what if side of it all is like, yeah, I think Cure fans and their legacy and the string of albums, they could have put out something more rocking and cool, and we all would have been fine with it, and it would have pretty much still put them in the same spot. But I think there is an argument maybe of like, Kiss Me totally set up the success of Disintegration by tapping into the mainstream more and like getting more pop and kind of opening up radio stations and people's eyes more, like, oh, this Cure band. And then like, even though Disintegration was like a heavier, darker album, it was on their radar because of Kiss Me, like if they had just been like another kind of rock album that didn't really blow up or get much attention before then maybe Disintegration wouldn't have had the success it had, but so there's some pondering there, but maybe that would have been cool too. So, but I think Kiss Me did do a lot to just keep the momentum going from Head on the Door of being this like, oh, the Cure's just this cool pop band that has a lot of layers now, and then they're like, oh, there's a pop band that has a ton of fucking layers now with Kiss Me, and then you're like, oh, and then there's Disintegration. They still can get moody, and it's like it just kept building on itself at that era, and that's what was kind of cool. But like I said, I think they would have ended up in the same spot, and real fans would have been happy with all of it. So it's hard to
Yeah,
say.
as I say, obviously me being like not existing when Kiss Me came out.
Yeah.
But, from kind of listening to the podcast and listening to kind of fans talk about it, Cure fans in the 80s were kind of them outcasts, weren't they? Because,
Yeah.
the rock, the rockheads kind of didn't kind of acknowledge them, and they were too weird and abstract for like pop.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would have been interesting to see them tap into more of the rock, and would that have opened them up towards the rockers? Would that have swayed fans away a bit of they're trying to please they're trying to please the mainstream crowds, and
Yeah.
they're not really being themselves.
Yeah, it's a tough balance, and
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
pretty cool. And I guess we're down to the last one. This was a finale question from Coulter as well, and you're gonna love this one. It says, "What if Simon wasn't tired of the betrayal?" Dun dun. So I guess we'd be where we are now.
Yeah, that was.
I guess he in the alternate reality, he'd just be fine, and they'd be touring in the fall. We'd be hoping for a new album. Robert would still be allowed to come to his daughter's wedding. That would be
Did he not go to the daughter's wedding?
Oh no, he was there. Yeah, recently.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. So in the alt world,
such a bizarre.
So maybe he's not tired.
I can't get my head around any of that. That must have literally just been a few too many beers.
Yeah, I think it was just
I say it was so bizarre. It's just all. No offense to the older listeners out there, but past a certain age, you need to get off social media.
Yeah, especially
you don't know how it works.
Especially when
and
you
don't know the
beers,
consequences.
Yeah.
You don't know the consequences of your actions. You had the whole entire Cure fan base freaking out for about 3 weeks.
Yeah, crying in their beer. I can't believe it's over, man. What the fuck? It's like everything's cool. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I knew it was fine. I wasn't freaking out or anything. Everything's fine.
I guess a better question to flip it back is, what if he was sick of the betrayal?
Yeah, it was I mean, I guess nobody's ever really said anything one way or the other officially in this.
And he truly left, and they weren't touring this year.
Everybody shows up for the shows in the fall, and there's just some fucking dude up there playing bass. That's like, whoa, wait, what? He's like, oh yeah, they're cool, but he's out. He said he was out. Remember? It's like, oh shit. So yeah, that would be.
It's like, as I say, obviously being kind of like a younger fan who wasn't there throughout the 80s and stuff, but the one thing I always loved about the band was kind of like the mystery around them and the mystique, and the problem with like social media, like when I found out Robert was like on Twitter and he was verified, it was kind of like disappointing, because it was like, no, please, I don't want to hear it, I don't want to hear all this, please don't say anything bad. I kind of like imagining them like off some, like the kind of like Greek gods or something, what I mean? These mythical creatures that you only see up on the stage, not even heavy stuff either. Just like when he tweets out in all caps, calendar missing July, sorry, kiss, kiss, kiss.
Yeah.
It's just like, fucking hell. This is Robert Smith for the Cure. What the hell?
He's apologizing for the fucking typo in the calendar. It's just like, no, you don't have to do this.
Yeah.
So exactly. So yeah, that's our alternate reality there. So I guess I'm happier that the way it's all panned out is the way that it really is. I don't think there's too many that I gushed over here that are like, oh man, that would have been so much cooler. Maybe the Ross Robinson thing, but other than that,
yeah, I would have loved to have heard pics of you too. That would have been a banger. That would have been the anthem of 04. That.
Yeah, for sure.
Come on.
But yeah, I guess we'll end on that note, and thank you so much for kicking this idea into the universe there, and glad to have you on to finally hash it out with us. I hope everybody out there got real riled up and has some complaints and their views. So definitely hit us up on that social media that loves just hearing people's opinions about shit. So it's the perfect outlet, right? But thanks, John, and hopefully have you on again soon with the full crew.
Yeah, no worries. It's been a pleasure coming back.
Awesome.
Hope to see you soon.
Yeah, you gonna hit any of the European dates?
Yeah, and I'm going to see them in Leeds. For some reason, they're not playing Manchester, which is the closest to where I live.
Damn it.
For some strange reason.
Huh.
There was the 2016 controversy, wasn't there? Did you remember that?
No, what was that all about?
They cut the set short, didn't they,
Right.
in Manchester? And then some people were saying it was down to Robert having the sore throat. Others were saying it was down to him kind of not being happy with the crowd.
Uh-huh.
And funnily enough, the next time they do a tour, Manchester's not on the bill.
Shit, yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought of that. And
tinfoil hats at the ready, you know.
Right. Yeah, I remember getting the reports back from that show, and it was a weird one because people were like, "What's up? The show's cut short. Voice was a little shaky." But yeah, so maybe something went down. That sucks for you though, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But
he couldn't stop thinking about Morrissey because he was in Manchester.
Yeah, what was that? He's afraid it was gonna be an awkward run in. Yeah. But yeah. Well, you'll definitely have to let us know how the Leeds show goes, and we can do the reporting from over here. And I hope it's a blast, man. I'm getting psyched now hearing about it. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna happen soon. What date is that one? Is it like later or?
The 6th of December.
Oh wow, yeah. So
I think it is on the back end. I think they're kind of coming to the UK
so you might
at the back end of the tour, aren't they?
Yeah, I think
it starts in like October, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They haven't done there's no US dates or anything like that yet.
Yeah, still, I thought they'd be announced. Hopefully they'll start like announcing them right around when this kicks off would be my guess. That's kind of how the 2016 one was, or at least by like November they'll start announcing some stuff for spring of next year. Hopefully.
Yeah, fingers crossed for that. Yeah,
that'd be cool.
I'm looking forward to it. Last time I saw them was Glasgow.
Yeah,
in 2019, and that was amazing.
Awesome.
Really hope the new album's out, but at the same time, I do have a bet with my uncle that if the new album isn't out by the time we see him, he has to get me a T-shirt. If it's out, I have to get him a T-shirt.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, that'll be interesting, or at least hear some cool songs from it. Maybe they'll pluck a few to sample if it isn't out, you know. And
yeah,
you should have a pretty good idea what you're getting into by December at least.
Yeah, you'd think it just. I don't want to keep this dragging on too long now, but with the Wish reissue is what kind of concerns me, because it's like, are you really going to release a reissue album
the same
that close to a new album?
Yeah, it does seem a little
weird.
With
like vinyl and stuff, you usually have to kind of get that sent off to the pressings within like 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
So you usually find out about an album at least 3 months before it comes out, don't you? I don't think they'd release it without the full kind of, without it being available on every format.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely
2023.
Getting the vibe. It's gonna be bumped. Yeah, probably right before the US tour would be my guess, and then they'll come back and play some more. Like it'll be one of those deals where they can kind of just group it in with the North America tour or something, then come back and do scattered dates wherever. It'll be something like that probably, but either way, if it gets there, I guess we can wait a little longer. But at least we're getting the Wish reissue. I'm trying to see the positive. That. At least we all love that album. We know that one's good. So.
Yeah, I can put my original copy in a safe somewhere now and keep it preserved.
There you go. Yeah, it's just gonna increase. It's like those Pokemon cards or something. Awesome, man. Well, I'll let you go, and thank you so much for chatting. And we'll be in touch, man. Have fun and be safe out there.
Cool. Thanks for having us. See ya. Bye.
Christmas, come over here and kiss me, hey you!
All right, again, a very special thank you to Jon for joining me and coming up with the idea of this magical imaginary journey through Cure What If Land. And thanks so much to you guys for listening out there, as always. We'd love to wrap up the show now with a wonderful shout out to our Patreon crew. If you're interested in joining Patreon for the Holy Hour Podcast, go to patreon.com/the Holy Hour Podcast and see what's going on over there, and be a part of the family, much like our beloved Donna, Craig, Jeff Hilton, Jeff Cortland Jones, Suzanne, Ben, John, Allison, Alan, Dione, Namicio, Danny, and Coulter. And of course, Scott Kruger over at the Sarlacc Digest. He has an all-Star Wars podcast. It runs its live shows every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube. And you can catch the replays everywhere that you listen to podcasts. All kinds of cool stuff always going on in the chat rooms over there. They call it the Pit. How cool is that, right? So come on over and join me in the Pit every Wednesday night and get in on the Star Wars love and action. Kate is over at CureThreads.com and has a wonderful website up full of all kinds of Cure-inspired original artwork that she's come up with and has on everything that you can imagine. Shirts, coffee mugs, flip-flops, cell phone cases, all kinds of stuff, or just straight up beautiful artwork. You can get some prints over there too. So go over and check that out, and check out her newest book, The Secret Life of the Otter, which you can order on Amazon and probably most places online. Just type in Secret Life of the Otter, and you will not be sorry. It's a wonderful book. Just got a wonderful review in the Wall Street Journal even. Lisa says, go check out Dickens if you're in the Calgary area. That's a venue that hosts a wide range of live shows and events. So check out their schedule and calendar of what's coming up at dickensyyc.com. And if you're in the area, go check out a show. There's going to be some good ones. And you don't want to miss out, eh? So go on over to Dickens YYC on Twitch too, and be sure to set the notifications so anytime they do a live stream, you can see, be part of that online action, so you don't have to be up in Canada for that. Matt wants you all to remember that sometimes you need to donate some blood and help out your fellow humans. So get the Red Cross Blood Donor app. It's easy, it's free. You can schedule an appointment. You can track your blood once you've donated it to make sure it's going where you want it to go. So I'm not sure really how much control you have over it, but you can see where it goes from out of your arm and into the world. So do your part, help out your fellow humans, and donate blood. And of course, Chaz, our good buddy, runs 17secondshirts.bigcartel.com. That's the official website. You go on over there and check out what he has for pre-orders up right now, or you can check him out on Instagram at 17_seconds and get in on action. Get some cool Cure shirts ready for the fall tour so you don't look like a schlep. And everybody be like, oh shit, where'd you get that cool Cure shirt? And be like, 17 Second Shirts. They'd be like, wait, what? I haven't heard of that. And he's like, because you're a loser and you don't know about this stuff. Oh, just kidding. It won't get that weird, I promise. Just check out his website. Pre-order it when it comes up because you don't want to miss out. Sometimes he gets extras, but you don't want to count on that. Get in on the action. Order it when it pops up, and you will not be sorry. Quality, wonderfully designed shirts over at 17 Second Shirts. And that's about it for now. So I'm going to try to catch you guys soon. Come on back. Subscribe on iTunes. Follow us on Instagram at The Holy Hour Podcast. And check out our Facebook page where you can leave some comments. Come up with some what-ifs of your own if you want over there. Or give us your opinions on some of these what-if topics over on Facebook. Everybody loves giving their opinions on Facebook, right? So don't let this fall short either. So go on over to Facebook and check it out, or just drop me an email at gavinconnor@gmail.com. Always love to hear from you, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, got that 200th episode. It's creeping up on us. It's creeping up. We've almost made it. So until then, go wonder what could have been. What if, and talk hard.